Welcome, everybody. This is the Camera Life podcast. It is, what's the date? Jeez, it's 5th of June already. How did that happen? Yeah. It's almost the end of the financial year. Episode 85 of the Camera Life podcast, proudly brought to you by Lucky Straps from Bendigo, Victoria. We make amazing, beautiful, handcrafted leather camera straps. So if you don't have one and you're interested, head to luckystraps.com. And use the code Greg in the checkout, and you'll get a nice little discount. Don't use Jim, or you can use Jim's new code, Jim Soft Focus, but I can't guarantee that that'll be a sharp discount. Welcome, Jim. Speaking of the devil, how are you, mate?
Well, thanks, Greg. How are you? I don't know. Is it glitchy on your end? Or is it just me today that's struggling with internet?
Yeah, maybe a little. That's okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining in. Jim's had a few tech issues this morning, folks, so he's here, and he's using a mist filter for aesthetic, apparently. We're also joined today by Pete Mellows. Pete is an Australian, Victorian landscape photographer. Pete, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Tasmanian.
What did I say? Tasmanian. What did I say? Australian, Victorian.
Yeah. Way off the mark.
All kinds of wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that the mainlander butchered your
I'll keep it up here for later.
Yeah, okay. All right. Payback. Pete, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on board. We're looking forward to talking about your craft, what you do, what you're working on, where you've been and your journey. But first of all, can you just give us a little snippet of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm predominantly a landscape photographer, but I really started to cut my teeth on live music. So, which is why I was really keen on Lucinda's last week. I photographed some really cool bands like Queens of the Stone Age, etc., and then kind of took over a pub. And it took a little while to get back into photography. It wasn't until I started a mountain bike business that I really started looking at landscape, and it just snowballed from there.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to unravel all of that. And in case anyone's wondering, Pete was referring to Lucinda Goodwin's time on the Camera Life podcast last week, where we unpacked what is, a marvelous and inspirational story about someone working against many people who said she couldn't do it, and is now an icon in Australian music as a photographer. So check that out in the archive. And of course, if you're watching along at home, please make sure you like and subscribe and tickle the bell so you get notifications of our episodes. And if you're on audio podcast, welcome. Let's jump to some comments. Jim, do you want to say good morning to some people?
Yeah, we've got Philip's in the chat. Morning, Philip.
Morning, mate.
We've got g'day.
There's Seb.
Hey, son. How are you? Seb's in Geelong at the moment, so he's probably closer to Peter than he is to me.
So he hasn't said good morning to you yet already.
No.
Wookie.
So that's Shane Henderson, who also shoots live music. G'day, mate.
Nice. Hello.
We've got Rodney.
G'day, Rodney. Rodney's joining us soon for an episode 2.
I'm assuming it's Justin. Morning, Justin. Could be Elena.
Whoever's hacked our account.
Yeah. And we've got Elena as well.
Oh, yeah.
And Seb says, hey, father.
Hey, son. Oh, very cool. Welcome, guys. Good to have you on board. Make sure that, if you've got any questions or any topics you want us to cover off with Peter while we've got him on the show today, please jump in the chat, ask away. You can ask us anything. Doesn't mean we'll answer it, but you can certainly ask us anything. Pete, let's jump into your story a little bit. Can we roll back the clock? I won't say how many years. I'll leave that up to you.
Sure. I'm going to go all the way.
Let's go all the way back to what were your inspirations like growing up from, you got into the live music scene, you got into a mountain bike business, and eventually you've gotten into, obviously, landscape photography. But where did some of that stuff originate from?
Look, I've always loved live music. Right from the start, and music in general. When I left school, I did a diploma in audio engineering. So that's always been in my bones, and always had a camera on me, so it was really easy just take photos of who's playing. The real kicker came when after I come back from the UK back in 2004, and there's a website called Naked Dwarf, and they asked me
what was that, sorry?
A website called Naked Dwarf. It was a kind of a music scene, local music scene website down here. A lot of forum stuff going on, talking about all the bands that were playing, all the local bands and some of the visiting. But yeah, they hired me to take some photos of Thirsty Merc. It's my first gig. Yeah.
Wow.
They're amazing. And I had my Pentax Ist DSL. It's like one of their first digital cameras. And the photos that came out were just awesome. And so I fell in love with doing that more on a professional level and taking the lighting that they put on and using that to create the images and using their strobing and all sorts of things. And the performance was so good that it was vibrant and alive. So it really spoke to me.
Yeah. Just a word of caution to the folks watching and listening along. Probably best you don't Google Naked Dwarf. Or at least don't do it if you're at work right now. Is Naked Dwarf still a thing, Pete?
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
no,
we'll leave that for Jim to Google later and let us know in the chat.
You might find it in the archives.
Yeah, just be careful, folks. Don't Google that while you're at work. It's, what's that saying? Not safe for work. Pete, you said that you went into audio and you've always had a camera on you. Going before even your like say formal education in tertiary, was there something that kind of inspired you to pick up a camera? Was it your parents always had cameras, or you had friends, or
so
encouraged you?
My dad had a camera, and he was really into bird watching, and we would have to sit through these slideshows on summer nights. It was horrendous, like it really was. But the images he was capturing were really lovely. He had like I think it was a 200mm lens, so I could get these little birds really nicely. But it was 1979 for Christmas. I was given a little Kodak Instamatic, and it just kind of stayed with me. And I took photos of everything. I had birthday parties and friends coming around, or we'd go for rides out into the bush and we take pictures. And it was just something that kind of stuck with me, and it would fit in your pocket. Really easy.
Do you still have that camera?
I wish. I think I just threw it out as a piece of plastic junk in the end. But I do wish that I'd kept all of these old cameras that I've had over the years.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. So, your dad was out shooting a lot. Did you ever go with him on those shoots with a camera of your own, or was it just more that he came home from his adventures and said, "Everyone sit down, I've got something to show you"?
Well, actually, it was on the family trips that we went on that he'd take the camera. So not only would we sit through the slideshows, we'd actually have to be with him while he was taking these pictures. So we'd go camping and he'd bugger off into the bush for a little while and take photos.
Do you think that he wanted you to, I guess, try and appreciate the photos, because how hard maybe bird watching photography really is?
I think so. He was certainly really proud of his pictures. And we had little choice. And of course, Mum would support him. And I'm sure she was just as excited as we were. But I believe he had a camera because his father had cameras when he was young.
Oh, wow.
And I've scanned a whole bunch of his old pictures, and they're just these tiny little things. Some of them are, a couple of inches wide, but they're, it's just in the blood. That's interesting. Do you remember your grandfather, or did you not get to meet him? Or no, he passed away a few years ago at 96 years old. So so he was a long-lived gentleman. I never saw a camera in his hand, so it must have been before he had kids, or you know, in those early years.
And did you ever have conversations with him about your photography and share that kind of experience? No, different sort of thing.
No, yeah. And they lived in New South Wales, and we were down in Tasmania, so we'd see them once a year. We'd fly up and stay on their farm. But that all kind of stopped when I hit 15. When I was getting more interested in sort of that artistic side of things, we saw him less. Yeah.
That's fair. Should we just jump to a couple of more comments? A couple more people have joined us, which is great. We've got JS Honey, Jason, morning all. G'day, mate. We've got Rodney Nicholson. I'm waving to him across the Bass Strait.
Hey, Rodney.
Hey, Rodney. Sam Olsen has joined us.
Hey,
morning
Sam.
all. G'day, Sam. Thanks for joining us. And fellow Taswegian, is that how you say it? Or just Tasmanian? I think I made that up.
Tasmanian. Yeah, people do say that.
Yeah, I think my mum says that because my family, my mum's side's all from Tassie. And Sash, my partner Sash, her whole family is from Tassie. So,
really?
Yeah, she's got one leg shorter than the other because she was raised in Launceston. Because it's very hilly. Digifrog Dave. G'day, Dave. Hi, Jim, Greg, Pete. Represent Tas. P.S. Pete, do you want to be Premier? Are you guys on the hunt for a new Premier?
I think it's anyone's game right now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there's vote of no confidence going through, so it's interesting times.
That doesn't happen often.
No. Look, I don't want to get too political, but they've made a complete balls up over the last few years with shipping and stadiums and all sorts of stuff. So,
yeah, okay. All right. Well, let's not get into that because we're here for happier times.
We're not a political podcast.
We're not a political podcast at all. So you're running around as a teenager with a little point and shoot film camera.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you kind of, and then you went into audio, and then it was, well, I'm working with in the concerts kind of scene anyway, so I'm going to take photos. Do you remember what your first camera was that you took into that space?
Look, it probably was like the proper one was the SDL when I was hired by Naked Dwarf. Leading up to that, as a sound engineer, I wasn't really focused on the photography side of things, but and those little cameras, they're terrible in low light. So I have a huge collection of blurry photos. So I wouldn't even consider any of those early photos to be anything proper. Yeah.
But you probably learned a lot from it. Sorry, Jim.
I was going to say they had about 8 ISO, I reckon.
Yeah, for sure. And the only way you get something decent is to put one of those bulb flashes on the top. And then they just give you that white spot around the face. Yeah.
Not pretty.
Not pretty, but they were fun camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was next for you in the photography space?
It was really when I started the bike business, I had a little GoPro that I'd mount on my bike, and the idea was take photos of everything. So I had that set to take a photo every 30 seconds while filming. And sometimes you get a decent enough picture to post on social media of each particular tour. I had my phone, because by then I'd given up the digital camera because the phones were actually getting better than the SLRs. So I kind of just carried that around, and I had this little waterproof, shockproof Panasonic compact camera. And so I'd get a few pictures with that as well. It was nothing amazing. Looking back, I'm actually really embarrassed by the pictures, but at the time I was so proud of them because we had these amazing landscapes and the people in it were clearly happy. And those landscapes, they fired me up and they got me seriously thinking about getting a DSLR again. And it was about 2014. I got myself a Pentax KS1 and took that everywhere. And then I got some really nice shots of some of my friends and some of the clients up close with the blurred background and everything. And everything started to look like I imagined it would be. Yeah.
And so you were taking your gear with you when you were running the tours?
Yeah, absolutely. My backpack was full of spare parts, cameras, foods, first aid kit, and a PLB. And a sat phone. So, everyone else has got these tiny little backpacks with a bit of food in it. And then here's me with this big clunky thing on the back.
Yeah, been heavy.
Yeah, really heavy.
Yeah, because the Pentax would have been heavy, wouldn't it?
That particular one, I guess so. Not compared to my current camera, but not like the little compacts that I used to carry around, for sure. And
so tell us a little, I'm interested about these mountain biking tours. I'm not into mountain biking, but Jim and Justin and Yelena all are. Yeah, Yelena rides too, doesn't she, Jim?
Yes.
Yeah. They do a lot of mountain biking, and Justin also shoots for a mountain biking publication. Is it for a brand, for Flow?
Yeah, Flow.
Yeah, that's a mag.
Yeah. So keen to hear a little bit more about that side of things for you. So what got you into that?
I've been riding road bikes for quite a while, and I started on a get fit regime, riding to work. Between Kingston and Hobart, there's this big hill, and no matter which way you go, you've got to go up a hill and down a hill. And I was riding to work every day, getting really, really fit. But I got sick of the road and I wanted to go off track. So I picked up a mountain bike and then got into exploring, went off to a mate in this remote location called Adamsfield. And it was an old four-wheel drive track, really rutted, up along a ridge line of a mountain on sort of the western side of the state. And just fell in love with the landscape and the idea of riding these trails. And I was saying to my mate, we need to show people these areas. And photography is one way of doing it, but I wanted people to really experience the bush around us, the vast landscapes. It was so amazing. So I started looking at other places that I could take people. Yeah. And it just kind of evolved into a business. Put myself online, and we're getting so many international people into Adamsfield, down to the very south, down near Cockle Creek, which is the furthest south you can go in Australia. Yeah. And on the eastern coast, there's this beautiful farm where Abel Tasman landed, like the very first landing, 1642, I think. And did some on our local mountain.
Yep.
The landscape was just fantastic, and it was so much fun. Every day we'd come back laughing and smiling. Yeah.
And so with these locations, I assume they were just one day tours, or were they overnights, or?
Just one day. We set a limit of driving maximum of 2 hours anywhere. Yeah. So we drive, like the Southport one, that took about 2 hours to drive down to the trail, and then we'd spend 6 hours riding, and then jump back in the vehicle and drive back home again. Yeah. And the Adamsfield one was close. I think it was about an hour and a half. And again, 5-6 hours of riding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Big day.
But so joyful. And I'm still friends with some of the people that I took on tour. You know, there are a couple from Iceland that I get updates from. And there's a guy that lives in China who's Spanish, who sent me some gear, like, because he worked for a design company for biking gear. So he sent me this box of gear. And they're really, really lovely people.
Yeah.
And
the
also,
people you were, sorry.
No, that's all right.
I was just going to ask you, Were the people that came with you, were some of them photographers themselves? Were they pulling out gear at scenic spots, or was it more just the experience of being there?
Just the experience of being there, because it wasn't predominantly about riding. It was about the landscape. Yeah. So I did get a few people who were really big mountain bikers, and they were trying to do jumps off everything and screaming down these trails. But that really wasn't what it was about. It was about experiencing the landscape. And and so many people who were visiting Tasmania who'd never ridden really, but also had never seen what we had to offer.
Yeah.
It was just that joy of being out in the wilderness that we all loved.
No, that's pretty cool. I remember when we interviewed Levin Barrett, who landscape and astrophotographer. He's also a commercial pilot for Jetstar, and he was talking about when he runs tours. He took a tour group to New Zealand, I think it was, and he was saying how often when he gets to a spot, he'll do the workshop bit. You know, he'll support people as well as take a bunch of photos himself, but then he'll encourage everyone just to put your gear away and just to sit.
Yeah.
And just look at this scenery, look at this amazing space that the only way they could get to was by landing a plane on top of the glacier, you know.
Oh, so wow.
The tracks that you were traveling, they were only accessible by foot or bike. Is that?
Yeah, that's right. So the one in Adamsfield, you could get a key, which you'd have to pay for to drive with on the 4-wheel drive track. But it was a very rare thing. It was really tough driving. Down Southport, it used to be 4-wheel drive tracks, but the locals had torn the landscape up so much they just locked it off. But it left a network of trails for us to ride on, which was fantastic.
That's great.
And on the East Coast, because it was a farm, there were roads, but a huge part of their farm, which is what we were accessing, that actually locked off for conservation. So there were some walking tracks, but that was it. And the only way you can visit is to actually talk to the owner of the farm to get access.
So you were getting to see, and your clients were seeing parts of Tasmania that most people probably wouldn't even know or could actually access.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was
amazing.
Yeah, that was the fun part too, knowing that we were doing stuff that nobody else was. And you didn't even have to say exclusive because just no one really cared or knew about it.
Yeah. So you were using the images you were taking with your camera to sort of like promote the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So they're going on my website. If you scroll back far enough in my Instagram feed, you'll find all of those Wild Bike Tours images. So, I just left them up there.
Yeah.
I've got your Instagram,
there's some really dodgy Instagram filters on there as well. So don't judge me.
No, you had to do it back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely. It was all new.
Yeah.
But the scenery. That is why I just kept taking the camera with me and why I kept upgrading.
Yeah.
Did you find that, like, having good photos to advertise the business, did that bring like any photographers along that were interested in the mountain biking but also in the
there's only one person I noticed who really took photography seriously, and it was on one of my local we were going up to Wellington Falls. It's one of the easiest rides that I was doing. But he was getting the camera out, taking pictures of lichen and fungi and that sort of thing. Everybody else, it was just like, got a phone, take a snap. This is what we're doing.
Fair enough.
It's funny. You would expect that people would be a bit more keen on the cameras out in the wilderness.
It is interesting. And maybe people felt that they couldn't safely carry their gear, or that they, it would be too much extra effort. I don't know. It's interesting.
There's certainly that safety aspect, safety of the gear.
Yeah.
Where I guess they think if they come off the bike, then the gear's broken.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always a risk, isn't it?
Mm.
I think what worries me the most is landing on the gear and then you get a camera to the ribs or to the back or something more so than braking.
Yeah.
I'm worried about
pretty,
breaking me, I think, than the gear.
pretty solid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, on that first trip out to Adamsfield, we were not even 10 minutes into the ride, and we're riding up on this this track. It had two deep ruts. They were kind of about this deep, and in the middle you had this sort of mound, and I was riding up the middle. It's a little bit slippery, and I fell over because it was steep, so we're going quite slow, and I just fell over and landed on my elbow on my rib, and I actually cracked my ribs at the start of that ride. And didn't realise until we'd got home that it was actually really painful.
Oh, that's a bit sore.
Yeah,
I'll just push on.
That would have been a hard ride home.
It was a big ride because that track it's not a round trip or a back and forth. We kind of had to, at the end of the ride, there's 18 k's of dirt road, which we also had to ride, and we had no idea. We thought it'd be really easy, but it just took another couple of hours to get back to the car. Yeah, all with that broken rib. And my mate, he was gone. We ran out of water. It was 35 degrees.
Oh, gosh.
And I wanted to go back. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm.
Let me just jump into a couple of comments.
Sure.
A couple of more people joined us. The O Show. G'day from Devonport.
Oh, hi.
Hey.
O Show.
The O Show. Yeah. We've got Justin here. Morning, guys. Sorry I couldn't be there. Excited to listen back later. We've got Chris 317. I don't think I've seen Chris in the chat before. G'day, Chris. Let us know where you're from. Loving my new lucky strap I got this week. Well, chances are, if you got it this week, that it was Jim or Yelena who sent it out to you.
But
Actually,
very likely. Yeah.
Any week, it's Jim or Yelena, but Jim's a man. He's a man. And we've got someone else here. Hey, Chris, which one did you get? I ordered a lucky strap with custom branding this week. Yeah, so Samantha, sorry to interject there with a sloppy segue, Pete, but I did warn you before we went live. So for those of you who may recall, Samantha joined us a couple of months ago to promote her book. It was a Monday night podcast. She jumped on the show and had a big chinwag with us about gear and the book she's been working on. And I'm pleased to say that Samantha did achieve. She got what she needed to fund the book, and she's working on getting that printed now. So it's a photographer's guide to the Great Ocean Road. Very detailed. Provides you with some tips and access details on how to get to the kind of spots that most tourists don't go to, or most photographers don't go to, for that matter. So yeah, and Sam also just ordered a custom logo. So she wants her photography business logo on her leather strap. So we are making a plate. She's provided the branding. We're going to send it off and get a special plate made that we can then emboss into her leather lucky strap. So yeah, well done, Sam. We'll get that out to you as soon as we can. So Pete, when did the adventures turn from? I mean, are you still running the bike adventures?
Sadly, no. There's a bit of a story, but essentially it involves a marriage breakup. So it was, Sorry. I didn't mean to step in that pile of shit. No, it's fine. Look, I was a little disappointed for a while, but it's fine. I've moved on. I had the business up until 2015 and then sold all the gear, got all my money back that I'd invested. So, wow. I call that a win. Yeah. But yeah, it was after that I kind of needed something to do, and mountain biking kind of left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth for a little while. So it was hiking. So going out hiking and taking that camera. Yep. Yeah. And learning very quickly that the camera I had actually wasn't up to the task. I went up to the walls of Jerusalem, I think it was 2016. And
where's that? Sorry.
So the walls of Jerusalem is just to the east of the Cradle Mountain Lake St Clair National Park.
Okay.
Which is where the overland track is.
Yep.
It's magnificent. I'd never been there before, and I was so just drop dead awe-inspired by the place. And I had my camera, and I thought I knew what I was doing, and I got home, and most of the pictures were a bit disappointing because even at that stage, I still didn't know what I was doing, and it was that moment that made me look hard at how to take photos properly. Like I've always known about composition because I have this background in design, but I never really knew how that camera worked properly. And so I started to study up a bit more and look at better equipment.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what equipment did you think, or what equipment did you move to next? What was the right equipment for you?
So I had made the decision so I had my Pentax KS1, which is a APS-C sensor. I had made the decision to stick with Pentax. I'd looked at everything and thought that had everything I needed. But my next camera, and it was a while later because I still didn't really know what I was doing. But it was 2018. I saw the Pentax K1 Mark II was coming up for release. And so I pre-ordered one of those, and I've never looked back. And it was in the KS1, the biggest problem was the noise. The noise pattern had this kind of crosshash. And it was really distracting. When you lifted up those shadows, everything just had this. It was almost like a Moira pattern, but it was a crosshash. Very strange. Yeah, and it just destroyed so many pictures because I didn't know what I was doing, so I wasn't getting the best pictures out of it. And so using the software to bring things up just didn't work. I did get lucky on a few though. I do have some really lovely pictures that I took with that camera, some through Italy, some from that Walls trip as well. But largely I just found it very disappointing.
And so you undertook some self-imposed study to work out. And so this was what, 2018, you said?
Yeah.
So what did you do? Now we have almost an overabundance of information. And I know even in 2018, there was still a lot available on the internet. But what was your journey of sort of working out how to take better pictures like? Talk to us about that.
The way I learn through all my life is trial and error. I try something, like I learned some basics and then I just try everything out. So strangely enough, the biggest stumbling block for me over the years was the f-stop. In my early years, I never really understood what that was, how it worked. And so I made it my mission to work on that before anything else. I understood what shutter speed did, but it was just the f-stop. I didn't understand the depth of field. I didn't understand how you could get more light in or shut it down. I don't know why. It was foreign to me. So I just made it the biggest mission to work on that. And certainly
it takes a while to, there's a lot of things to take in. And lots of settings to change that get you similar outcomes. So it can kind of limit.
For sure. And I think really it was mostly my fault because I don't do formal training very well. I can't just sit in a class and take all that information in. It disappears pretty quickly. And I just kind of never really worried too much because when I had my film camera, I would literally just put it into program mode and take a picture. And because my composition was usually good, everything else kind of worked. And with film, you don't get the film back for a week or two, and then you've completely forgotten what you've done unless you write everything down.
There's no little information box to go, oh, I shot that at this.
That's right.
I suppose my shutter speed was this. It didn't work. It worked or it didn't work.
That's right. And with the advent of good software, you could really start to pull those pictures apart, and like you say, you can actually see what it was that you did right or wrong.
Which is a really good way to learn. Often when people are starting out photography and they ask me for advice about, how do I master this? I'll say, just start with a prime lens, one lens, like a 35 or a 50 full frame, and then go out and shoot at every aperture in the daylight and in the dark room, and then go and review those images and understand what the aperture did, and then go out and shoot the same stuff but change the shutter speeds and don't touch the aperture, and just really, it's that trial and error. Because back in the film days, when I studied film in art school, we always had to have a notebook and a pencil with us to write down everything that we did, so that we could do that review. Once we'd processed our own films and printed our own prints, we could actually understand what we had done to create this, to make this image at the end of the process. But digital spoils us in that regard. So new camera in hand, new walking shoes, I presume. You're out on the tracks. What are you looking for when you're building compositions in landscape photography? What sort of elements are you looking for in your work?
So I'm very opportunistic. I will go visit a place and I'll just see what's there. And if I like what I see, I'll take a picture. I don't necessarily plan out pictures. There have been a few that I do and I've got in my mind, but I guess the main thing for me is I like to fill the image with what it is that interests me. So I get that subject and I just fill the frame. Sometimes if I've got a subject in a big scene and it kind of makes sense in that context, I will push it out. But it's really about just filling the frame. And I do that with my sports photography. I do that with any portraits I take. And I can't help myself. I know I tell myself sometimes I've got to go wide, but I'm always drilling down. Always. When I'm heading out, it's not so much I want to get an element here and an element there. I'm just looking at the scene and adapting to it as it goes. However, when I had first purchased that K1 Mark II, I did have a plan to go down to Tasman Island, and it was full moon. I thought I'll get the full moon shining on the cliffs and get the night sky. And I had my place marked out on photo pills. So I walked down there and I knew the scene I had in mind. And but again, it was filling the frame with what it was I was trying to say. So I had the edge of the island on one end and the edge of the cliffs on the mainland on the other end. And it just kind of filled top to bottom, left to right. Yeah.
Very cool.
I don't know. It's pretty simple. I'm a simple man.
It sounds like it's putting that into practice every time is different. So
it's something that I can rely on. So I can then spend time thinking about all the other settings, and the composition is just, it's in my brain and I just do it. So I don't have to worry about it.
Just a quick comment here from JS Honey. Wonderful to hear from a Pentax user. Not too common these days. The K1s are nearly indestructible.
They sure are. Yeah. Although I did break mine.
Got Pentax for a long time too. Sorry, you were saying you broke yours?
Yeah. I was up on Mount Wellington and taking some shots to the south at night, I had everything packed away. I got in there and took all the photos, and then I was so excited by what I'd done. I was carrying my camera with me, tripped over a rock, and the camera just went down. The massive 10 to 15 millimeter lens just broke the mount, so it just split apart. The whole thing was toast. Yeah.
Really? Oh,
yeah.
Not salvageable at all.
No. Well, so the insurance paid up, which is really nice. The CR Kennedy, who looked at it and who I buy through, they said they could never repair it to the the specs that they would want to, but they did. A few months later, I asked them, look, even if you just super glue a new mount in, I'm happy, just so I can kind of have a spare. And a few $100, I've got the camera back, and so now I've got 2 of these things. It's really wonderful.
What about the lens? Was the lens shot, or was that savable?
No, the lens is done. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
glasses
gutting, isn't it?
Yeah. It was so hard. I was devastated, and I had a job coming up where I needed that camera. So even before the insurance paid out, I just had to go and buy another $3,500 camera, hoping that they were going to pay up.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose you needed one either way, didn't you? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What I've forgotten my question. It's just gone. I'm so sorry. So you mentioned jobs. So, having gone through your Instagram and checked out your website, landscape photography isn't your only pursuit or genre that you shoot. You shoot a bunch of other stuff too. Talk to us about what sort of genres you work in or enjoy shooting.
Yeah, so one of the things that I do enjoy shooting is kids sport, and I kind of fell into that because my kids did sport. My youngest daughter was doing football, and I am not a football fan, and so as a dutiful parent, I would need to be at the football games. I took the camera just to keep things interesting.
Yeah.
And then I was posting pictures on their Facebook page just to say, here's some pictures of the kids. And then they've asked me to do team photos, and I was taking pictures of all the games and selling them, and it just kind of kept going. So that was 2019 I started that. And my other daughter was doing gymnastics. So same sort of thing. I asked if I could go down on the floor, and they're like, oh, yeah, no worries. And I've been doing that ever since. So two state competitions a year, and we do their awards show, which is a lot of fun. So my partner and I, we take a mini studio into their awards ceremony. So all the kids just come up, they do a photo booth sort of thing, and we do some fun things with the lights, and they do all their fun moves, whatever. It's a lot of fun.
Cool.
It's a very different it's a big change of pace shooting landscape compared to shooting kids sports, especially fast-paced sports like footy and gymnastics. How did you find that challenge moving to that?
That it's like stepping into fire. They you've got to get that shot right the first time. And as before, I had a lot of blurry pictures, but you quickly learn. And that actually helped me a lot with my landscape, because it meant I could think fast and frame my shots and get all the settings right that first time. But the kids' sport, with the football, it was fine. We're outside. But the gymnastics is an indoor sport. It's low light. We're shooting really fast moving kids. So we're running 1/1000th of a second, because you can't go any slower than that. Pushing the ISO up as high as you can, which is for us 6400, and then maximum f4. And even then, when I get it home on the computer, I've just got to push the exposure right up. On Capture One, that's 1 to 1.5 exposure. just to get those kids in the right sort of without blurring and get enough light so that we get some detail.
Yep.
Yeah. But it's always fun. You know, those kids, they've got these amazing expressions on their faces. They're so dedicated and they're concentrating so hard. And sometimes there are tears, but, you know, seeing the joy on their faces when they do things right and then allowing the families to see what's been happening on the floor. That's why we love doing what we do.
Yeah. And do you foresee that would continue once if your kids decided to stop sports?
My kids stopped doing those sports years ago.
Oh, okay.
You're still locked in.
Yeah, still locked in. So my youngest stopped football and started volleyball, which she's still doing. And for a couple of seasons, I was doing the state comps for them. That was actually a lot harder than the gymnastics because their arms move so fast. Even 1,000 per second, it's blurred. Yeah. And the thing with gymnastics, you know what the kids are going to do. Even when you don't know the routine, you've got a fair idea where they're going. With volleyball, the whole idea of the game is to fool the other team into thinking you're going to do one thing and then do the other. And, you know, I'm that other team on both sides. I don't know what they're going to do.
It's also like having the net there, it makes it quite difficult to shoot volleyball.
Because it can obscure faces and details and things.
There's some really cool angles you get. Like you get down under the net and look up at the opposite team. If you're lucky enough, you could get that net out of focus. But you know, your autofocus just would not comply. It would always focus on the net, so everything was manual.
Okay. Wow. Fast paced. That's pretty brave. It's really interesting to hear that someone. I mean, I know there's lots of photographers out there who can and do shoot different genres, multiple different genres. But it is interesting to hear someone that, you know, you're working in probably one of the faster paced genres of photography. That's quite dynamic and unpredictable, and it really pushes your photography skills and your camera's capabilities. And then you've got at the other end of the spectrum, you've got, you know, your landscape, you're walking, it's calmer, you can take it in and appreciate the moment even before you lift the camera to your eye. So it's really fascinating to hear that. You know, anyone listening along or watching along, you know, do you shoot at opposite ends of the genre spectrum? Genre spectrum? Genre. Created a new word. Let us know in the comments what's been at the polar opposites of your work or hobby photography or enthusiast photography genres. I
find that doing those different genres, it's like cross training with you know, any sport. You can really be expert at one thing and do really well at it, but if you're cross training at all, whatever it is that you're doing on that other side helps you do your main focus. So you'll see a lot of runners will do mountain biking and sort of weightlifting is kind of part of the training, but certainly the riding really helps those runners in different ways because it activates different muscles. And it's the same with the photography. While I'm doing those high-paced, you know, really fast shots and thinking quickly, that helps me with my landscape. And the landscape helps me with the sports because it allows me to think about the framing of those kids and what they're doing. And so I can frame the shot hopefully before they come into to what they're doing. You know?
I think it's really wonderful advice, and obviously great to hear a success story in that regard. You know, sometimes I'll talk to other photographers and I've been in a rut myself, and who maybe feel a bit like they've stalled or they can't really move forward enough with their skills and their output. And I often suggest, why don't you go out and try a different genre? You're stuck on that. You're not really making, whether it be macro or something, or often I did this during COVID a lot. I'd tell people, borrow or buy a macro lens and just go out in your garden, just get on the ground. And it makes you look at the world in a whole different way. And, with the hope that some of those skills transfer and provide inspiration and motivation, and maybe even you learn a thing or two to help you build that original genre again. Or maybe you fall in love with something new and that becomes your main genre. And the stuff that you learnt in the first genre carries across. So I think there's a lot to learn from that story, Pete. Let me just jump to a couple of quick comments because we've got some more. JS Hani has said, talking about the indoor shoots at the gymnastics, and the lighting in the indoor stadiums is always rubbish.
Oh, it sure is.
Yeah.
Very dull.
Yeah. I hate it. I actually spend the first sort of half a day, because the competition's over 2 days. The first half a day, I'm hating everything I'm doing. And then as I get used to what the light is, it's like, oh, yeah, that one's all right. Yeah.
Next comment from Rodney. G'day, Rodney, again. Challenging depths of field with those shoots, I guess.
Yeah.
What is referring to?
I think that came up with the volleyball.
Yeah.
And because you've got that aperture wide open, you've really got this much space.
Yeah.
So you rely on
and if the net grabs it, the face is out.
Yeah.
And then again from JS Honey, used to shoot some VFL. VFL, you're showing your age, mate. Ironically, with a Pentax and a K5 and a K10.
Wow.
But also shoot landscapes, street, macro, general random stuff, but all purely as a hobby.
I think it's still called VFL, Greg, for the Victorian Football League.
Is it?
Yeah, which is like the upper tier of local footy before you get to AFL.
I'm not a footy person either. So all I remember was
so are you showing your age, maybe?
I am showing my age, yeah. As if this isn't enough. But I remember my pop getting up in arms when the VFL became the AFL.
Oh yeah.
And he was and there was a coach, Ron Barassi. Oh, bang on about Ron Barassi. Every weekend I went over there for a sleepover. Anyway,
maybe that's why I don't like footy.
I think that might be part of it. Yeah. Although back in those, like when I was a kid and I did a paper round, I was in Airport West and I did a paper round. A lot of the football players were just tradies. They were just plumbers and sparkies, and they practiced at night and played on the weekend, like Essendon players, I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, I am showing my age. Thank you for reminding me, Jim. All right. So we've talked about your landscape a little bit. We've talked about you doing the kids' sports. You also shoot a range of other stuff. I've seen in your site and your Insta doing some portraiture. Talk to us about some of the other genres that you enjoy, I guess.
Sure. So I've got a business called Photograph Tasmania. So there's a whole other site. And a lot of that is the sports, but I've done some corporate sort of gigs as well. I don't mind doing those. It's a bit of cash. But as far as other genres that I like, I don't mind the macro. I don't mind getting right down on my hands and knees, but it's a whole other level of patience for me. And I don't know that I've got the patience that I could do that on a continual basis. But I do have a lens, a macro lens, and on my YouTube channel, I've done a couple of macro videos, which always seem to do really well as well, which is kind of weird. I think people they get excited by macro.
And I think also with macro now, especially since COVID, I remember during COVID, I wrote a couple of articles about get out in your garden. If you can't go and do your normal photography because of restrictions, get out in your garden, do some macro. Doesn't matter what lens you've got, just try it. you know.
Yeah.
But I know that a lot of third-party brands started pushing macro lenses around that time. Lauer put out a whole bunch of different macro lenses for different mounts. On that note, how do you find lenses for your Pentax kit? Like getting lenses to suit what you need.
There just aren't that many. So I've got pretty much the full range from 15 millimeters to 450, and they're all the Pentax zoom lenses. The glass is amazing. They're really high level. I haven't really seen any issues with them at all. So they're my bulk. They do all of the work. The macro lens, also a Pentax. Unless you're going to go back and buy some secondhand ones, there just isn't anything out there anymore. At least nothing that I've seen. I picked up. Hang on. I picked up one of these dodgy things. What's that? Lens Baby.
Oh yeah.
So they're still being made for Pentax, but I've never actually seriously taken a photo with that, so wasted money.
There's your challenge for the weekend.
They got you with the advertising, did they?
Yeah.
Look, I've been looking at them for years because on the CR Kennedy website, they're always for sale. And I was like, oh, look, it's cheap. I'll get one. And I ended up getting a few of the inserts for them, and they were cool. But yeah, it's a toy. It really is a toy. I like to go looking for vintage lenses. I go up to the tip shop every now and then, see what they've got, and I found a couple of good lenses that are slightly misaligned. And when you're using a DSLR without the live view, it's never in focus. But if you use the live view, it's just like a mirrorless camera, and you can get spot on focus.
Yeah.
And they have some really nice qualities. But yeah.
So are you manually focusing those, or are you still using the autofocus?
Yeah. Most of those are just manual, but you still get those focus points though, so it will tell you if it's in focus. Unless because my eye's obviously not the best, so I tend to, with landscape, bring in the zoom on the live view so I can get that really fine adjustment. But otherwise, I just rely on those focal points. If it's something quick, I have to trust the camera. Yeah,
very true. Let's jump to a couple of comments because people have jumped in about the Pentax lenses. Just from JS Honey again. I started photographing bees during COVID just in the front yard. Creative photo. Gotta love them Tamron Pentax lenses. Well, some of them. Jason again, get the FA 77 millimeter.
Yeah, I've got the 70, I think. It might be I got the DA 70 millimeter, which does fit the full frame, and that was amazing. I bought that in Japan. It's a fantastic lens. Nice. But I did pick up the old 50 millimeter SMC from 1980 or something. It's a 1.2 lens, I think.
Nice.
Crystal clear. I don't think I've seen a lens as good, at least not in my experience.
Yeah. Oh, it's a keeper then.
Yeah, for sure.
And JS Hanny again, all of the FA primes are great actually.
Yeah.
And Rodney said, I bought my first Pentax because of their lens quality.
Oh, fantastic.
So I'm relatively unfamiliar with lenses. Fuck, that'd be a problem, wouldn't it? With Pentax. Tell us, our Pentax are still putting out new cameras though, aren't they?
Yes, they are. So obviously there was a Pentax 17, which is their latest, which is a film camera, the half frame.
I meant more the DSLR side.
For sure. So the most recent one they've put out is the K3 Mark III. I'm not sure if they've discontinued it. I think I heard something. But that's... So this is the one, because I bought that for the sport because it's got a fast focus. It's much more modern than the K1. It's a fantastic camera. High quality. It's got everything you need. I just find that crop sensor isn't enough for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some advertising on socials about, was it advertising or maybe it was an article about Pentax, their most recent offerings, and that in Japan they're kind of considered a bit of a niche brand. I guess given their scale, but I mean they've been around forever. It's they're still hanging in there, which is great to see.
They are, and they are developing the K1 Mark III. We just don't know when it's going to arrive. The rumor was it was going to be announced at the start of this year, but it just has not. But I'm hanging out for that because my Mark II is showing its age. You know, I'm getting those dead pixels, and I'd like some more modern functions now.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's been 7 years.
Are you going to stick with it with the Pentax?
Oh, for sure. I've got too much money invested in lenses now. I did a video fairly recently just covering how much money I've got invested in these cameras. I know for a lot of people it might not seem like much for big camera gear, but I've got probably 20-25 grand's worth, and I can't afford to replace all that with a new system.
It costs a lot more than 25 grand to
for sure. Well, especially with the dollar now, the cameras themselves are exorbitant. You know?
I was talking to my partner about that last night because I'm looking at picking up a new camera soon. And the last camera that I bought, I've tested a bunch since then, but the last camera that I bought for myself, I think it was just at the start of COVID. It was whenever the Fujifilm X-E4 came out, and now Fujifilm are holding an X Summit next week in Shanghai, and the rumor is they're releasing a new version of the XE, so an XE5, which would be at the top of my shopping list because I need something newer. You know, I need some better performance for what I do. So, not that I do a lot these days, but you know, when I do it, I want it to be good. Yes, Wookie, the XE5 I'm talking about. Shane is also an XE lover. I think Greg Carrick also has an XE. Yeah, he has an XE4. He loves the XE series too. I think it's the unsung hero of the Fujifilm range. And you know, fancy that, Jim. Me talking about Fujifilm.
I was just thinking that. I was like, how do we go from Pentax to a big Fuji chat? Yeah, I don't know if you've seen many of the shows before, but Greg gets paid every time he says Fuji. He just another dollar appears in his bank account. So
it's gone up to $1.20.
That's how he gets those pre-release cameras.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. Or maybe J.S. Haney said that they do Pentax do the K3 monochrome.
Yes,
it's very niche as well.
By all accounts, an amazing camera. Even though that's an APS-C, it's because it's monochrome, it's even better than the K1 as far as the image quality.
So they haven't released like a mirrorless camera yet?
They did one back in 2012, I think, and it failed really badly. And I think they've just gone, not for us.
Stick to what we know, kind of thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
It was a bit of a joke by all accounts. But they're slow and steady. And I think for us Pentax users, we love the brand, so we're happy to wait, you know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Although it's pushing the limits now. 7 years is a long time.
Yeah, time to upgrade.
You've happy or you have to. It's
That's right. And you know, my partner runs Canon, and she's got an R5, and I do look at that sometimes thinking that's a really good camera. I could use all of her gear.
Yeah.
Well, you think I talk about Fujifilm a lot?
Together.
Oh yeah, then you can swap lenses, all of it.
Yeah, that's right.
You can have everything.
You think I talk about Fujifilm a lot? Justin doesn't shut up about Canon and the R5 Mark II, or the R5s, because he's had both. He loves his R5 Mark II, and rightly so. It's a phenomenal piece of kit. Like it's just
they're
blistering fast.
They're great.
Yeah.
So when we do the gymnastics, my partner Laura, she has the R5, and her images are just so much better. She gets focus so much more than I do. And again, first half of that first day, I'm like, why do I even bother when she's pulling out these photos? Yeah. So yeah, a little bit of jealousy in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
Pentax,
interesting that Pentax has stuck with the DSLR format while everyone else has moved to, and they have shrunk in size considerably, obviously, and popularity. It's a competitive market, and it's an interesting move. And I guess there are people out there that just want to stick with the DSLR format, that they prefer that style of photography, they prefer that style of system, and I think it's brave for a brand to stick with it.
For sure. Look, I do like the viewfinder. I don't like the EVF, and looking through the lens directly, I actually really enjoy. So I can see what it is, and the light is natural.
It's not a replication of it.
That's right. Yeah, and I know you can see with the EVF, you can see exactly the photo that you're going to get, but I like to see what the scene actually is.
Yeah,
match it.
There's definitely pros and cons to each. Each way.
Yeah.
For
Jim,
sure.
has Nikon formally said that no more DSLRs from us? Have they completely ditched the offering, or do you think it'll hang in there for a bit?
Not that I know of. They're still selling them.
I
don't know if they're going to bring out like another a D7.
Yeah.
Because they've got the D6, and obviously they're still selling the D850. It still pops up for ads for me sometimes.
Yeah, no, I still see them being offered. I just wondered whether they are so invested now in the mirrorless and tooling up machinery for mirrorless. Like it's a different, it's a whole different kind of factory setup for them to.
Maybe they've said it. I don't know personally.
Yeah, no, I didn't know either.
It probably makes sense. Like they've bought out the Z9. They've got a flagship mirrorless camera.
Yeah,
but it might be that the D6 was the last. Sort of flagship body of the DSLR.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake really to stick with DSLRs these days.
You think it's a mistake?
Yeah. Just because the technology is moving so fast in that mirrorless sector, DSLRs just being left behind.
I think that's what they've tried to do with like their lens mounts and everything, that maybe forward thinking a little bit, that they might not have the technology to do everything now, but in the future, kind of future proofing those mounts a little bit so that they can create different lenses that have a wider aperture and stuff like that.
For sure.
As the technology gets better.
I don't think there's enough investment in the old tech now to warrant keeping producing. So maybe Pentax might eventually move away from DSLR, but if they can't keep up, then they'll lose even more people, and probably me too.
Yeah, it's true, and it's sad because if they don't shift into this new kind of world that we're in with mirrorless, it kind of feels like they're only just clinging on. I don't know what their market's like or their sales or anything like that, but you rarely hear about someone talking about investing in or opting for a Pentax camera.
The only thing they've really got going for them, I think, is that they love photography, and you can tell in their products that they are making these cameras because they love photography. They're not making them to make a buck.
Well, that's good. I think that's really important, because sometimes it feels like other brands lose sight of that when they release a new camera and they
those incremental upgrades.
Or they emit features that other brands have been doing for years, or I guess it probably happened more when Canon and Nikon kind of dragged their heels moving to mirrorless. Initially because they were dominating the DSLR market, and they still do. But where other brands like Fujifilm. We're moving to, we're going full mirrorless. Sony. I don't think Canon and Nikon took it seriously at first. I think they thought it might have been a passing fad. And then they had to pivot very quickly, and they've made significant grounds. Like they're once again the leaders in that field.
Maybe it was that. Maybe they wanted to make sure that they were releasing products that were, like I know that the early Nikon mirrorless cameras weren't that as great as what they are now. Like Justin had the Z6 and he wasn't stoked with it.
So, I think the mirrorless cameras now, there's so much more that you can do with them, just in terms of using AI, because the image is hitting that sensor straight away all the time. And so you can really start to change the way the camera works just because it can see everything that's going on all the time. And the DSLRs, you just can't do that.
Yeah. And they do bring a lot of, I think modern mirrorless cameras are becoming more and more convenient for anyone to pick up. And, there's a huge learning curve, but I think that they're more accessible because of some of the features that mirrorless have over DSLR.
Oh, absolutely. You can see what you're shooting is probably the number, or you can even just hold the camera up here like you do your phone. It's very easy.
Yeah. And also, like, the significant leaps that have been made in video recording capabilities in our, in our photography cameras. Like, Justin shoots hybrid. Jim, you shoot a bit of hybrid too, don't you?
Yeah.
When your Nikon is working, obviously.
Well, it's working the software to make it work with the computers.
Right.
Not working,
okay.
So.
Whatever. Yeah. Whatever you
Which
tell
is
yourself,
still a big issue for Nikon. They should have that fixed.
Yeah. Let's jump to some comments. They also did the Pentax Q, absolutely tiny and sought after. What else has he got to say? He's very vocal today. Great to have you on the show, mate. The optical viewfinder is still better for live action and sports, in my opinion. And he goes on to say, I'm also one who uses the optical viewfinder in the X100 and the X Pro 2. So they have a hybrid optical EVF.
Yeah, when I've used the X100, I also shoot, with the viewfinder.
Yeah, it's got that rangefinder style. Or they both, the X100 and the X Pro, rangefinder style. And with the Fujis, Pete, I don't know if you know, but the hybrid viewfinder is either pure optical or pure 100%, like it drops a screen that becomes the electronic viewfinder. You can also do like a picture-in-picture where it just puts a tiny version of the electronic viewfinder in the corner of the optical.
Oh, cool.
So you look
really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think the X100V had a few issues where the dropping and rising panel, I think it came in at an angle over the OVF. It started to jam. So hopefully they're ironing that out for future models. But it's bizarre looking through an OVF and you've just got nothing but a clear view. There's no, either with a rangefinder or a DSLR, there's no overlay of information necessarily. It's just it's just you and what you see, which is lovely sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, look, I have a lot of information on mine. I all the basics, and that I find is enough. The main thing I've been looking at is the horizontal. Having that level at the bottom of my screen is probably the most important thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
One more comment here from Shane. That's when I left Canon for Fujifilm. Mirrorless in low light, especially shooting live music, was a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So what are you working on these days, Pete?
So one of my main focuses is my YouTube channel, which, I'm just kind of learning as I'm going. I've been doing it for about 1.5 years now, on and off. But I'm just going out into wilderness and taking photos and talking people through what I'm doing. But I'm also interviewing other photographers, which I really enjoy.
I've seen that on here. You've got What do you got? Tim? Is it
Two
Tim
Tims.
Grimsey?
Yeah,
Yep.
Tim Grimsey. He's like one of the most popular fungi photographers down here.
What a title.
Yeah. Look, he's a real character as well. He's also a celebrant, so he does weddings in his particular style.
Oh, wow.
A lot of fun. Yeah.
That's very cool. Your channel's got a huge amount of videos on it. Some talking to camera about what you're experiencing. A whole range of topics, really, which is wonderful. How are you finding that video production side of things?
Oh, it's a big learning curve. Because it's not just photography, it's editing and storytelling, scripting, and it's the whole thing, and just talking to camera as well. It took a long time for me to get used to doing that. I took a video camera around with me for about a year before I put my first video out, and it was just trying to find things to say, but also do it in a natural way, and it took over a year before I was comfortable enough to be able to put something up. And even then, looking back on those old videos, you can see that I wasn't quite there. But, you've got to do it as well.
You start somewhere.
Yeah.
And do you enjoy that process? Obviously, there's something in there for you because you published quite a lot of videos. How do you find that process?
I do really enjoy it. I enjoy sharing. One of my things has always been I love helping people. So for me, that part's really easy. The process itself, I do enjoy the filming. I enjoy the editing, but I have to wait. Sometimes I have to wait a week before I can even look at what I've done, because there's so much. And what I find that I really fail at, and I'm still trying to get to grips with, is getting all of that B-roll together to tell the story. And so I recently went up on a trip with my mate to Shadow Lake, and the last video I put out this week, we were doing the full circuit, and that was when I really started to, I'd stop him and say, look, we need to do this a bit of B-roll. It's very, very patient, my mate Chris. But it'd be like, no, look, we've got to do this, and then we're going to do it from this angle. And I got him to take the camera down, doing this first-person view of this, long boardwalk, and then he would get me going down the boardwalk, and then I looked at that and I overlaid it so it was telling a story like it was me doing it and all that sort of thing. It's really exciting. It's a very rewarding experience, but the YouTube also makes things I can't think of the word. It's it's not depressing, but sometimes you just feel like you're just not doing a very good job, because the views can be really super low. And, you'll see on the analytics, you can see your reach might be, say, 10,000 people, but you might only have 100 views. And it's like, well, where am I going wrong? And that can be quite debilitating. And then you have to really think, well, what am I going to do next time to make it better?
I think
slow burn. I think YouTube.
Yeah, we've talked about that as a team for the Camera Life quite often about, we're getting there, but it is a very slow, long climb. And it's a crowded space.
Absolutely. Well,
which is great for consumers.
The only reason I did it was because I couldn't find anyone in Tasmania that was really doing it. There are plenty of people doing YouTube, but none doing photography. And so I thought I wanted to fill that space. And even within Australia, there aren't that many. So, I thought that'd be really cool just to add my voice to the mix. No,
and
if I can show people Tasmania as well, all the better.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it's a wonderful space. And I think, we have a lot of people on, have had a lot of people on past episodes that are based in Tasmania or spend a lot of time there. And you mentioned earlier the Overland Trail. We've had Cam Blake and Tom Putt, who have done a lot of work there. And I think they've even published a book about it.
I've got their book.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot to love about landscape and nature photography in Tasmania. It is such a beautiful part of the country. That big swathes of it that are untouched and that are only accessible maybe with local knowledge like yours. So I think there's a real niche there.
That's right.
For people like yourself to create content that celebrates it and promotes it and gets people to appreciate it respectfully.
That's right. And one of my favorite parts of the process is just poring over the maps, looking to see where the tracks are, looking for old four-wheel drive tracks that don't exist anymore, old rail trails. Those sort of things are a lot of fun. And I used to do that with the mountain biking as well. So it was just this natural progression. And then, you find this one little spot where you picture this view and you go down there and it takes you half a day to walk in or longer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just for the view. That's amazing.
Just for the view,
yeah. That's dedication. I love it. So what's next on the cards for you? Where do you see your creative pursuits taking you? We've talked already this morning about how you're, you always had a camera with you. There was a bit of family inspirational or, insight and incentive there. You got into audio and you had a camera with you. You got into mountain biking and you had a camera with you. What are you going to get into next that you think may lead to maybe a new chapter of your photography?
I actually just like to focus on the photography. I think I'm at a point now where I've used other pursuits as an excuse to have a camera. And I think now it's time my excuse for having a camera is to have a camera. And so I just want to go looking for those places that no one's seen and take pictures. Yeah. I currently work in a shop as a day job, and we do hiking food, so I get to talk to people who go out into the wilderness. And so that gives me a chance to think of new places to go as well. But ultimately, I'd love to just be doing that as a living. I don't think it pays very well.
It's a tough gig, isn't it? It's we've talked at length with other landscape photographers who who have reached that pinnacle of selling wall art and opening an actual physical gallery. But the amount of work that they have had to go put into that is quite significant to get there.
Sure.
And not everyone makes it. It's just a reality of the genre. Speaking of successful photographers, there's a gold hunting guy. Sorry, this is from Creative Photo. There's a gold hunting guy called Rob Parsons in Tassie that gets into some great looking photo places. I've actually followed him on YouTube for a while. On YouTube. He's extreme. Like, he will walk up rivers for days. There's no tracks, there's no paths, there's no. Have you seen him, Jim?
No.
Yeah, and he's got this kind of process. He doesn't dig or pan necessarily. He does have a pan to sift, but first he wears just a scuba mask and a snorkel, and he'll wear a wetsuit because it's often freezing, and he will just lie on his belly and just move along the riverbed with this kind of picking tool and this, like a sauce bottle with a little tube on it, and he'll suck up the gold with it. And it's really cool. And then at the end of the video, he'll be back at home and he'll be weighing how much he collected on that trip and what it's worth today. And really fascinating and really clever YouTube videos too, because he does it all solo. But he must set up a camera, walk up river to capture the shot, then walk back just to get his camera. Then, it's
repeat that process. Yeah.
That'd
be tiring.
It's a lot of work. I couldn't imagine doing that wading through a river. It's bad enough with a full pack on your back.
And he often has, like, he'll have a blow up paddleboard in his pack. Like, he carries a serious amount of gear. It's really interesting to watch. and the amount of B-roll stuff they do is incredible. Yeah, it's all that walking back and forth away and to camera.
Or going way off to the side, putting the camera down, then walking all the way back along the track, walking up the track, and then going off the track again. Yeah.
And so you want to focus on what you're enjoying at the moment. You want to focus on exploring more of Tasmania's wilderness to find amazing vistas to photograph.
Yeah.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, I want to do some more exhibitions, but there's a guy, I can't think of his name now. He does these like drone sort of things at night. So he puts a light on a drone and programs it to do circles, and it shines light down the landscapes. Amazing work. But he has this thing where he does an AR thing with his phone. So you walk into a room, he's got a picture up on the wall, and you point the phone at it, and you can see everything moving. I'd like to do something like that.
Wow.
Where I can take a photo, like even if it's a traditional landscape photo, and then you bring your phone in, overlay it, and you can see what's actually happening there. You can see the amount that the grass is moving and the the stars in the sky. Yeah. That is my next big project. Yeah.
So that'd be like shooting a video as well of the same scene.
That's right. Yeah. Now I can't shoot photos through the video camera because the quality's just not there. If I want to put something on the wall, it needs to be that big 30 plus megapixels. But I can mount a camera in a very similar position.
Yeah. Or you could get a Canon R5 and then you can just do it all in one camera.
Well, strangely, I've got an R50V just recently, which doesn't have a very big sensor, but the image quality is amazing for video.
Yeah.
So that's as close to Canon as I'm getting for now.
Fair enough.
There's the change. There's the change.
Yeah. But I do have access to a bunch of lenses, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, you do. And you can probably adapt your Pentax lenses, can't you?
Look, you can, but it's fully manual. To fit on the old DSLRs, I think you've got a sliver of a mount change. And there are mount changes for or adapters for the new R series, but there's no electronics at all. So everything's manual, which means I can't even use my modern lenses because you can't change the aperture unless it's done electronically.
Right.
Yeah. So vintage lens only.
But
thankfully Laura's got a 24-70, 70-200, and that's plenty. And she's got this really lovely 85 1.4, which is the biz. That's a pretty cool lens. Yeah, it's very popular. Yeah. Okay. I've got to ask Justin's question. We're heading towards the end of we're into our the downward slope of the show. No, that's not the right way to say it. We're going downhill. We're in the back half. We're in the back half, nearing the end. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for bailing me out. Thanks for letting me sweat for a while before you did. Justin loves to ask every guest that we have on the show. Imagine the world is ending. You're in Tasmania, and you've just heard word that the zombie apocalypse is very real, and the zombies are hoarding en masse and searching for victims. And you've got to run, and you've got to grab only one camera with one lens on it so that you can document the end of the world and, hopefully from a safe vantage point. What camera and lens is it? Look, it's my go-to, which is I've got it right here. K1 Mark II with a 24-70 lens. It goes everywhere with me. I've broken this lens probably 3 times. Because it's a bit of a habit for you, Pete. Look, I'm not precious with my gear. Let's just say. But I had that in Japan on repair for months, and I really missed it. All I had was a bunch of primes that would fill the void, and so swapping lenses all the time. It was got really lovely pictures, but it was really tedious. And so to have this back, it's I haven't taken it off since it's come back a few weeks ago. Yeah,
and that Pentax is pretty solid. Sorry, mate.
Yeah.
So, and the L bracket would be, a good weapon. Should you?
Absolutely sharp on those edges.
Solid.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit before we went live about our shared love of Japan, and you had to travel. You traveled to Japan recently. Did you say that was last year?
Last year, yeah.
Last year,
July last year.
Yep. So very sweltering hot, as we discussed. Did you take a kit with you, or were you purely focused on the experience with family?
Well, funny story. So yes, I took family, and I had this camera, this very setup with me, and it was hanging on a strap actually, which went into the bottom mount. In the Hobart airport, before we'd even left, it mustn't have been attached properly. The camera fell on the concourse, impacted on the end of the lens and buggered the lens. And so I had this, the camera mount was slightly out of alignment as well. So I sent the lens off to get fixed. I took the camera with me and I had to do everything through live view. It was really, really annoying because, I like to stick it up to my face. So holding the camera like this the whole way. But I did manage to get some nice pictures. We went to some temples and, did a lot of street photography. Absolute fun time. And still great pictures. Yeah. And I picked up those two lenses I spoke about before. So the 50mm vintage lens, one of the best things I've bought over there. Yeah.
It's very hard to go to Japan as a photographer and not want to buy a bunch of lenses, especially if you go into like a second-hand camera store.
Those stores are incredible.
I think I went into Map Camera in, I think it was Map in Shinjuku, just around the corner from Yodobashi. Was it Yodobashi Camera? Anyway, and they had a Canon floor, and then they had a Nikon floor, and then they had a Pentax Ricoh Micro Four Thirds floor, and and camera bodies that you rarely see in shop windows, like secondhand cameras in camera stores here. They just had shelves and racks of them,
and they're all popular, in perfect condition.
Like Ricoh GR3s and GR2s and even the old film GRs. I've never seen so many secondhand bodies of those in my life. Like they were just everywhere.
And good prices.
Yeah.
I think I picked up the 50mm. That was about $150.
That's pretty good.
It's really good, and it had demo stamped on the side of it as well, so it's reasonably rare. But the picture quality was amazing, and I'd probably spend about $400 here on that same lens. And those camera stores. What
was the second lens you got?
Second lens was the DA70.
Okay.
It's a tiny little thing. It's about this big. Again, beautiful image quality, but it's just that longer focal length, which I probably wouldn't use that often. Whereas the 50 is, as I say, it's a perfect lens.
Most definitely.
But those camera stores, they're tucked away in some weird and wonderful places. There's just like a tiny door in the side of an office building, and you go up
no signage,
narrow stairs. No, that's right.
Or you get into a lift that only holds one person.
I wonder how they make money.
That's right.
Like how they're surviving, but they obviously are.
I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube of mostly for gaming, but you also see them looking at camera stuff because YouTubers love cameras too. And they'll go into the secondhand stores in general in Japan. There's a couple of chains of them. One's called Book Off. The other one's Hands Off. Hands Off is just general kind of secondhand furniture and homewares and stuff. And Book Off is books and gaming stuff and electronics and camera gear. And some of that, they'll just have buckets of old DSLRs.
Wow.
Huge, just tubs, open tubs, and they'll just all be dropped in there, and they're all wrapped in plastic and they're absolutely cheap. It's amazing.
Now, speaking of old cameras, I wanted to show you something. That's my segue for the day.
Sure.
I've got this old vintage camera. I want to say vertical cameras have been around forever.
Look at that.
So this was my great-grandfather's, and it's hang on, I've got it written down, a Vest Pocket Autographic Special, which apparently Ansel Adams had.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a glorious piece of kit.
And it's meant to be held vertically, you're saying?
Yeah, because this is the viewfinder here, and you look down and out, and that's vertical.
Wow.
Yeah. So half frames, not such a silly idea after all.
And what sort of film does that take?
It's autographic, they call it. So basically...
Did you say pornographic?
Autographic.
Oh, autographic. Sorry, I misheard
so
you.
Just fits... There's a little reel that goes in here, and you spool it on up here. And it's all manual winding. It's just incredible.
Have you actually shot with it?
Oh, God, no. Yeah, the viewfinder's full of fungus and stuff. I really need to get it all cleaned up.
Yeah.
But
That's cool.
Oh, wow. And it folds right down. That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Cool.
Vertical.
Yeah. So I don't know how many of those there are around, but yeah, that just sits like that. There you go.
That's your collection. Nice.
Yeah.
Well played. Well done.
Yeah. I have this affinity for older cameras and some of the old tech. I've got a couple of old Lytro cameras that are pretty much useless, but they're a fun bit of tech.
Yeah.
I don't know if are you aware of the Lytro?
I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever.
Yeah. So basically what they do is they take the light that hits the sensor, not only has the gradients of black to white, they also look at the direction. And so when you load the image up onto the computer, you can then change your point of focus after the fact. Yeah. Change your aperture after the fact. It's really quite amazing. So you can pick out objects really easily because it's got that whole depth as well that it records. Yeah. The major disadvantage there was that the 24 megapixel sensor, because it's got so much information in, ends up being more like 4 or 6 megapixels. Yeah.
How long ago did they come out?
Oh, so I bought that one in 2014, I think.
Okay.
But they've probably been around a couple of years before that, because I got it for about 600. And I know.
Was that the one that looks a bit like a mobile phone?
Well, so the original that I got is this little one. That's tiny.
Oh my God.
So you've got a screen on this end, lens in there. But the image on that is next to useless. It's tiny. But then this is the main one. So, for its time, it was pretty advanced. Pull out screen. It was
that's
touch
the angle.
Yeah, that's right. But it's fixed lens. This was at 30 to 250 millimeters f2. Yeah,
it's pretty.
Yeah, but they
f2 the whole range.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's and amazing. one of the added benefits was all the close-up stuff. You could make a little movie moving around an object. You had this 3D effect because you could see behind an object
as you move the focus point.
Yeah.
And is it like focus stacking in that sense?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's looking at the vector of light.
Yeah. Okay.
Really hard to really come to terms with it. It's a strange concept, but they ended up ditching those and going to full cinema rigs for hundreds of thousands of dollars with big like computer racks and everything.
Yeah. I remember a few years ago there was a mobile phone, an obscure brand brought out a prototype. It might have been a crowdfund thing, and it looked like a smartphone, but it had like 9 lenses on it.
Oh wow!
And so when you took a photo, it basically took multiples, and then you could choose where you wanted the depth of field, what you wanted to be in focus, what you wanted to be out of focus. It required a lot of post-processing, obviously, because it was, manipulating data. But yeah, it worked with like a focus stacking thing. But it meant that you it would take a photo where everything was blurred.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And then it would slowly kind of, and so you could choose, all right, well, I want that and that blurred bit over here, and I want the sharp bit here. And yeah, it was really, but it never really took off because it was, I think it was quite expensive and complex.
Kind of like a tilt shift in a way that you could have kind of a few things.
Yeah, but all at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it had multiple different lenses, and all the lenses fired at the same time. And
I can imagine
you could choose.
Yeah, I can imagine sitting at a computer really thinking hard about what you had to do with that.
I think it would do your head in, and I think that's part of the reason why it didn't take. It was overly complex.
Yeah.
And you know, they were trying to say you don't need a bag of lenses ever again, kind of thing.
No.
It was probably Canon who shut them down. You know, someone big, one of those corporate kind of espionage things will shut you down, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll just quietly buy you and bury you.
Yeah, we'll buy you and then get rid of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting talking to guests on this show. You know, we've spoken to a lot of people who shoot both digital and film. We've spoken to people who shoot film only, and some of the cameras that we've had the good fortune to see and talk about on the show has been amazing. When we spoke with Lucinda last week. You know, she's got 100 and was it either 45 or 154 cameras in her collection.
Yeah, I just stopped before we got to that point. I was not saying that. I'll have to go back
self-control.
and look.
Yeah, no, go and have a look. Actually, Justin's really keen to interview Lucinda again, but at her home, and just have her just talk about each camera. And so stay tuned for that, folks. So I don't think we've told Lucinda that's happening yet, but we're coming to your house, kid.
That could be like one of my old slideshows that my dad showed.
It could be a little
bit. 78.
No. But yeah, we've unraveled lots of really obscure cameras. You know, when we talked to Andrew Rovenko a couple of weeks ago, he had a large format camera. He shot with film, medium and large, and he had a lens, and I think it was like off an old World War II spy plane or something, like it was a spy lens, because that camera was actually fitted into the belly of a plane with the lens pointing through a hole in the bottom of the plane.
That's crazy.
And you know, with that old glass, and he's shooting with that now. So really amazing. And yeah, I think, you know, if you've got your hands or you've inherited an old camera, you know, don't throw it out. You know, use a display piece to sit alongside your brand new flashy, you know, Canon or Nikon or whatever it is. Don't throw them out.
No, look, I was going to get rid of that Lytro, and a mate of mine said it's a piece of history. You can't get rid of it.
Yeah, most definitely.
And I'd probably get nothing for it anyway. So.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
No.
Yeah, not worth the effort. Jim, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on today?
No.
Well, I think on that night we might actually call it a day. Now, Pete, was there anything that you wanted to plug or promote or talk about that's coming up for you?
Really, just subscribe to my YouTube channel and hope that you like what I do. You know, I just like to share this great place I live in. I know I sound, you know, like a bit of a fan, but I love Tassie, and I think more people need to see what this place has to offer. And so just come along for a ride.
I think that's great advice. You know, every time I go down to Tassie, because my partner's family's all from there and are all still there, I just find that everything slows down for me. You know, because obviously I live in a city in Melbourne. You know, I've got a full busy household, and we do lots of running around. But you know, going to Tassie for me is just it literally is a breath of fresh air. And so I encourage anyone to visit and travel down there.
And now is the best time. So do it
this time of year, right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's cold, but the skies are clear. There's a lot going on right now. We've got Dyke Mofo on at the moment, and there's a few other festivals happening. So now's the best time.
Yep.
Maybe instead of Japan, Greg, we can push for Tassie for our Christmas party. It might be it might be more achievable.
Well, we aim high first, Jim.
Yeah.
And then if Jay says no, can't do it, then we'll say, all right, well, we'll settle for Tasmania.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll make we'll organise a bit of a Camera Life catch up.
Yeah.
With some folks down there.
Perfect.
All right, let's just jump to a couple of quick comments before we wrap. Nev Clark, g'day, Nev. Nev's from Western Australia. I thought I was bad with 3 cameras. You're just a junior, Nev. You're still at the start of your game. You got a long way to go, mate. Rodney, it's a paperweight. Yes, it can be a paperweight.
Sure is.
Nev Clark, I want to come to Tassie. Yes. Nev is also a landscape photographer. And the child of mine said, great show as always, lads. Wonderful to hear from you, Pete. Thanks, Seb.
Thanks, Seb.
From Philip, thanks, Jim and Greg and Pete. Good show. Thanks for joining us,
Thanks,
Philip.
Cool.
And once again, Seb just said, yeah, that's rookie numbers, Nev.
Yeah, it's not the cameras that count; it's the number of lenses you have.
Yes,
Yeah.
very true.
Yep.
Very good point. But I say, why not have both? But look, on that note, I think we're going to wrap for the day. Some exciting things are happening today for both Pete and us, and me. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The Nintendo Switch 2 has launched today, and Pete has his arriving at any moment. And once we've wrapped this podcast, I'm heading to pick mine up, and you will not hear from me. You will not see me Monday night. You will not see me next Thursday. No, just jokes. I will be. I will make time for work. I've got to pay for it somehow.
You'll have to give us a review next week, Greg.
I will give you a review.
Yeah.
I think everyone should have a Switch 2.
Well,
So we can all play
just bought a
Mario
Switch,
Kart.
so I don't know if we're going to get a Switch 2.
You just got a Switch for your place?
Yeah, March, my daughter's birthday. So,
Nice.
well, for her birthday.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah. Look, Switches will be cheaper now too, so pick up the original.
Yeah. Lots of games. You should do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the world of photography for now. Rodney Nicholson, great show, guys. Enjoyed, Pete. JS Hanny, thanks for the Pentax show, guys. You're welcome, man. And Cheeky Seb says, Greg will be here next week, but he'll be playing Switch 2 the whole time. I'll just have a second monitor up here, and I'll be very distracted.
Controller behind there.
Yeah, no one needs to know. And Nev is a PlayStation. I was going to say PlayStation pussy, but I shouldn't say that. Nev plays PlayStation. Yeah, I know. Could be worse. But look, anyway, on that note, I just wanted to thank you, Pete, for joining us today and sharing your journey.
Thanks,
and your inspirations and the steps throughout your life that have led to you to explore your photography further. I think that's really wonderful to hear. So yeah, on behalf of us, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thanks for jumping on, Jim.
Thank you.
Covering
sorry,
for,
I'm a bit soft and blurry today.
You're a bit soft.
Look,
I think we should just
call
leave
it a beauty filter, I think.
Yeah,
it's a beauty filter. Yeah, it's either that you've just burnt toast, or
does look
you've
a
got
bit
a mist
smoky, doesn't
filter.
it?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah, we'll work on that before next week.
Perfect.
Yeah, all right. Got to get that Nikon fixed. Oh, it's not the camera; it's the software. Sorry, I know.
It is the software.
But look, on that note, folks, I've got to find my music. Justin set me up with music, so we'll give this a crack. I don't think he has the outro music. Anyway, look, on that note, folks, this has been The Camera Life. It is the 5th of June, and this has been episode, what did I say, 85? I should know this. This is my job. Yeah, it is 85, Jim.
How do we get from the other day we were 70 something?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just making up the numbers now when I do it.
But
yeah, this has been the Camera Life podcast, proudly brought to you by Lucky Straps from Bendigo, Victoria. We make fine leather camera straps, and you should check it out at luckystraps.com. We're also going to put Pete's links to his website, his Instagram, and his YouTube channel in the show notes below in the comments. So please make sure you check those out. A lot of great content there that is free for everyone to access and to learn from, which is also wonderful to see that Pete's also contributing to our community. So thank you, Pete.
No worries. Thank you, Greg. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks for joining us. And we'll see you on Monday evening. We don't have a guest on Monday evening, everybody, but next week we have Craig Watto-Watson joining us for a chat to talk about his craft. So make sure you like this episode because it helps with the algorithms. Subscribe to the channel and make sure you tick on the all notifications so that you get notified when stuff comes up.
Yeah, Elena's picking on me. So,
what did she say?
She said the other day, and then she said 1 month ago. That was the other day.
Yeah. But on that note, I'm going to try and play some music because I don't have the boss's fancy deck thing. And we'll see you on Monday night. Thanks again, Pete. Have a great weekend, everybody. Get out and shoot. And there's some music for you.
Cool.
With the high school shuffle. 1 foot, side to side. That's all you got to do, dude. Everybody join me at home. Come on. Get into it. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.
See you guys. Thank you.
Cheers.